Welcome back to part 2 of Alyssa's story. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I encourage you to start there as it lays the foundation for everything that we're going to be talking about today. As a reminder, this episode includes sensitive content related to domestic violence. Please take care for your well-being as you listen, and the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available at 800-799-7233, and more resources will be linked in the show notes.
This dude, my ex, was on the ground in the bushes outside my apartment.
Oh my gosh.
And I did have a restraining order, so things had happened and escalated to where I had called the police and gotten a restraining order. And so, but every time I would call the police, he would be gone. You know, so, and then he rented a car and he followed me, like he was following me and tried to run me off the road. I didn't recognize the car because he had like changed cars. And yeah, I mean, he would sit in the car and like watch me. So we'd park like really far away from our apartment and stuff. And I mean, I have a 5-month-old and a 3-year-old. His kids, by the way. And it's just like, then we would go stay at hotels. So, because we just weren't safe at home because he would lurk outside of my place. And it broke my heart but I would do everything I could to try to make it special and fun for my daughter. So we called it she would call it the fairy tale instead of the hotel. And so even now as she's 15 now, but even now, sometimes we call it a fairy tale. And, you know, I just would try to make it really fun for her and, you know, go swim at the pool and stuff. And it was like, she had no idea that, like, I was meeting cops down at the lobby to, like, take police reports and stuff. So it was really scary. And I would say I also had a therapist at the time. And the last thing he told me was that, I guess, like, a couple days before, there had been a woman who was murdered and thrown into the Mississippi River. I think the guy killed her mom as well. And my therapist, you know, knew about all this stuff. In fact, I had my ex come to one therapy session with me because I was like, I really want to do therapy. I mean, we are so gone beyond therapy.
Yeah.
The therapist needed no less than 30 minutes with us for him to tell me, don't ever bring him back. He doesn't need therapy. You can't be in therapy with him. There's no rehabilitating him, basically. And so he told me, he's like, Alissa, I was so afraid until I found out that the victim's name. I thought it was you.
Wow.
And so, like, that hit me big, like, because I like, still in some way I'm still thinking, you know, yeah, this is bad, but I would say I don't even think I knew that it was really abuse, like a domestic abuse.
Which is so crazy to say, but that's so real to feel like, is it? I don't know. Is this what I think it is?
Yeah, it's that boiling frog thing. I mean, you're in the water for so long and it keeps getting turned up and up and up and up and up. And it's not until 12 years later when you're talking to somebody and telling them the story and you realize, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, I lived that.
Actually crazy.
And I just think that, like, this is, I did one reel that got just crazy views and attention. And I was just saying about how like, my last visit, like, I made the decision in 12 hours to leave, and I knew I had to leave town. Like, I had to leave because I couldn't get away from him. He was outside my work. He was outside my house. I couldn't keep affording hotels. Like, I had nowhere to go. The cops would not arrest him. Like, I was never able to get him arrested. And I like I said, so my lawyer said, you have to leave. He's going to probably kill you. And one of the last police officers that I had made a report to was like, you don't have much choice. You're going to have to leave. And then, like I said, my therapist said, I really thought that girl that got killed was maybe you. And it took all that for me to finally be like, okay, I guess I have to leave, you know? So So I packed my kids up. I told my work. Thank God I had a work that, I had somewhat of a remote job before that was kind of acceptable. And so I packed my apartment up. I had a Jetta, my mom and I, and my 3-year-old and my 6-month-old at the time. And
wow.
And we left town and didn't know where we were going to go. And actually the cops escorted me across state line because he was at my house. He was at the parking. He was in the parking lot. And so I remember us like crouching down, and it was very dramatic. It was very dramatic. And I think that that's another reason why so many of us, like, we just, if I have a peaceful home, there's just no, I've had so much drama that I don't need that. I don't want any drama, you know what I mean? So
yeah, you just want
my
peace.
life is super boring. I fell asleep to watching Disney news last night on the YouTube blog. And I love that for me. Like, I don't want any other life.
I love that.
So, yeah.
So where did you guys end up going?
Yeah, we went, like, I basically went dark for like 4 years. Like, I went off the grid. I didn't post anything. I didn't have social media. I didn't have anything. And I will tell your listeners, I was unmarried, and the state that I left, I did not kidnap my kids. Like, unmarried mother's rights was, and I had a lawyer, so I made sure this, like, I was allowed to leave. Like, I didn't have child support. There was no visitation, nothing like that. And, well, and I'll tell you, if he wanted to try to find me or find the kids, he could have, and he never did.
Yeah.
So
it was more about intimidation
Exactly.
and showing up. Yeah.
And that's what I tell some of the women that I meet, and they're like, I'm so afraid to leave because of the children. I would hate to take him away from the kid. And it's like, I have my experience, the dad is a really bad dad. And so I could only speak from my experience, but my word of advice is, you never know. He might not try to come and find you. You know,
Yeah.
he might not be as destroyed as you think he will be, because there's a fairly decent chance that you think that it's greater than he really, wants that relationship. So
Yeah.
that's just a word. That's my word. So yeah, we moved to Nebraska. No, we moved to Florida first, and then we moved to Nebraska, which, if you ever want to get away from somebody, go to Nebraska.
I was like, who lives in Nebraska? I mean, not that many people, I feel like.
Yeah,
or not people I've met, but.
I moved for work. I wasn't like in the witness protection program or anything, but yeah, I mean, it was a lonely time for me. I was very depressed. I was very, very depressed, and went through a really, really hard time mentally there. And that's another sad thing, as I look back on my children in those ages. Like, I just kind of white knuckled my way through that time. But yeah, I stayed no contact, and I would say, God, that no contact piece is what it takes. I think we told 5 people where we went, 5 trusted people. I really tried to protect the innocent, because I felt like if too many people knew where we were, then if he was going to try to look for us, like, I didn't want that burden to be on them. I wanted them to have like plausible deniability, right? Of like, I don't know where she went. She just disappeared. So, so yeah, I kept the circle of truth really, really, really small. Yeah, and I would say that in those I learned a lot as well, in a lot of hard lessons in those last few months that I was trying to leave. Like I said, I went to hotels, and the reason I went to hotels is because the few people that I thought were friends, nobody would let us come over and stay the night. And I was like, I just need a safe place where he doesn't know where we are. And I know, looking back on it now, like, I think that, those people probably didn't want me to invite potential violence to their house, right? But in the moment, I'm just looking at it from my perspective, and I'm thinking, well, I thought you were my friend, and you're not even answering the phone, or you're not even letting me come over. I felt really, 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 really abandoned from my friends. But mind you, my friends were also his friends. So when you have 6, 7 years with a person, your lives are completely connected and stuff. So it was very, very lonely. And so I think that that's probably a lot of problems, like a lot of reasons why women have a hard time doing no contact. And so I would just encourage you to know it's going to be hard before you go into it. Like, prepare yourselves for that. You have to prepare yourself for friends that you thought your friends, they might not be there for you. Or you might have to just cut them out, like, proactively, to protect your freedom, or protect your innocence, or your privacy, or protect your protection bubble.
Yeah.
That's something that was really, really hard for me. And I suffered for a while with depression for lots of things, because when you're coming down off of a high stress, high anxiety survival for years and years and years and years, when you go to the quietness of a Nebraska cornfield, right? It's just like deafening. The silence is deafening. And so I kind of went a little bit crazy there too. Mm-hmm. When it's like a super high to a super low. You're so used to just, so tense and anxiety, and survival. And then you're there, but then you're always looking over your shoulder, right? So I was kind of like in hiding, looking back on it now, I know he wasn't even looking for me, but at the time I thought whenever I see or hear something or loud noise or whatever, I was on edge. So I was on quite a bit of therapy. I did go into therapy, and then I also, had a psychiatrist that I did take medication for a couple years. I'm off of medication now, which I'm glad for, and I don't think anything bad about using it when you need to help you get through, a hard time. It certainly serves its purpose. But for me personally, I'm proud of the fact that I've done a lot of work on my body, physically, to heal to a point where I don't need medication anymore. But it was a process.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, I don't know how, what you get from your community that you speak with a lot, but from my little community, which is growing, a lot of women just really, really, really struggle and can't stay. I mean, it's that whole, like, why it takes 7 times to leave, because it's just hard. It's going to be hard, but they say choose your heart. I mean, the story I just told you, that was hard. Living that was hard. And
well, they're both very hard. Yeah. Living with that man, it's absolute torture, but packing up and leaving everything behind and only keeping a few friends in contact, that's extremely hard too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah. But one of them ends positively and the other one was going nowhere, but
one has hope and one is,
right.
One you get despair. What you get with that man.
Yeah. So. And he's still abusing. I know he got married, and that woman, he put her in the hospital. I believe they're still together, but
that's horrific. Yeah.
And there was a few women after me and before this current wife that he did as well. So it's a pattern. I will tell that to people too. They, if you meet a man and he's doing that, you're probably not the first one, unless you're like teenagers. I don't know. But if you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, like, this is not new. He's probably done it before.
And I think it helps to realize that too, because I think a lot of the time, I know for me, I had this shame of, is there something about me that just sets him off? Like, is there something like messed up in me? Would he be normal if it wasn't for me? Because everybody was always singing his praises. And I was so confused that I was getting this side of him, and I thought that maybe it was my fault, you know?
Yeah.
And then once I got out, I ended up, just this past year, finding out that he was abusive to the 2 other women that I ended up speaking to. So it's never just you. It's a pattern of behavior. And if you hadn't seen it before, it's because they've hidden it very well, and they've made it to where you won't want to talk to their ex-partners. You know, he was saying his child's mother was crazy or whatever. They make them unreliable narrators to where you're not going to go and dig a lot of the time.
For sure. And you get so immediately like into it with them that you're as my kids say today, you're cooked. Like immediately, like I was cooked. I was in it, and I couldn't. I didn't even care about the outside world, what was going on in his past or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, just falling hard and fast is so dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into the next part of your story? I know Disney plays a role, which is, I just feel like our stories are so similar in a lot of the experiences that we went through.
Yeah, that's definitely what drew me to you. So got out of the first one. I have my 2 littles, and we, like I said, it was 4, well, I didn't say, but I was single for about 4 years, and I didn't really date much because, like I said, I was in Nebraska and I was working, and it was just, I was going into I did have some therapy, not a lot, not as much as I needed apparently.
Enough to somewhat sustain you.
Yeah, enough to maybe make me feel like I was doing a good job, but it was really hard. Going through therapy is really scary because it's very, very hard to sit and tell your story again. And I know for sure that there was things at that time that I probably still had blocked out. It was still almost too fresh. And also I was very, very, I was sad that I had to leave my last therapist that was in town where I was. And I really hated the idea of like starting over with somebody new. So I think I delayed that a little bit. Anyways, we ended up moving back to California, and that's when I met this last one, and it was on Tinder. I swiped right, unfortunately. And we went, and he was very charismatic. He was a little older than me. He was like 8 years older than me, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 8 years older than me. And my children were 4 and 7 when I met him. And, you know, he lived like an hour away from me, and I always went to him. So I went out to where he was, and we met for drinks. And he drank a lot. And I drank with him. I used to drink too. And so, and I only say that because unbeknownst to me, he is an alcoholic. But when you're in the very beginning of the relationship, there's a lot of like drinking socially that is really acceptable. You know, you're going to go out. Let's go out for
date nights.
Yeah, let's go out. Let's go. I mean, the first few weeks we were together, we always would be going out for drinks, and we lived at home. I had a house. I had bought a house. It was my very first home, all on my own. I bought a house,
which is a huge accomplishment.
Huge. It was huge for me. And my mom, like I said, she's moved all over the country with me, so we're a package deal. She was at home with the kids, so I hope nobody say, "Oh, would you leave your kids at home alone and go drinking?" So the kids are home with my mom, and of course they're like, my mom's like, "Okay, yeah, go out." And, I'd been single for 4 years, but she was really cautious. And yeah, I ended up bringing him home the first night. So embarrassing. And she was my mom was very, very unapproving of that. And she just got bad vibes from him, which, gosh, I wish I had listened. but very, very quickly we got bonded. I think in the first 2 weeks, he had to go to the hospital. He always went to the hospital a lot. He was very sick. And it was because he drank too much. He had like, I don't know, stomach issues. But he had to have a procedure. And of course I was like, I'll stay with you in the hospital. And it was just like, oh, you know, it wasn't anything like a life, like heart surgery or anything, but he had to go under. And I remember being like, I think I love you. And, you know, like within 2 weeks, it's just crazy.
Those experiences can really bond you, though.
Exactly.
Hospital health stuff, like very much so.
Right. And so I think that was relevant because that was just like, we met in the middle of June and this was like July 2nd or something. So a few weeks into it. And then he, you know, just little things I remember. He, like, one time he got really, really mad because I didn't play a song he wanted to hear on the radio station or on the, you know, the iPod or whatever. And it, you know, I look back on that now and I'm like, he was really controlling. The minute he didn't get his way, then he's like, well, take me back to the city that he lived in. And I was like, no, I don't want to take you back. I'll change the channel. You know, I'll change what you want. And just to make him happy. And he was very, very, very drunk. And so, you know, this was a whole new element for me. I never had been around an alcoholic before. I was not raised in a family that struggled with that. So it didn't dawn on me until like one night we're making spaghetti or something, and like we lived really close to an AM PM, and he'd be like, I'm gonna go get a bottle of wine. He loved wine. And I'm like, okay. And like by the third bottle of wine, like I'm like, it's Tuesday. Like why, like we're not partying. Like this is just a regular night, you know? And that's when I kind of started to realize like he can't say no, really, you know. He all the time. So he said he was a vet. So he didn't have a job, and he said, I don't know. I guess he did military service because he did get mail from the VA. But he quickly moved in, and the whole time we were together, he's talking about this big check that he's going to get. Like, they owe him some big back pay for disability. And so he's just, like, relentlessly, like, over the top about it. And obsessed about his money. And so he would always talk about that. And so shortly, let me think. He moved back to Florida. We broke up. There was like just a lot of drama, a lot of fighting, and he was going to move back to Florida. And then it was like so sad. We got back together, and then I actually moved out there. I got an apartment. I know this sounds crazy. My mom and the kids stayed at home in California, and my mom's like, well, I guess you're going to have to just try it out and see if he's the right guy for you. And so I went out there for like 2 months because I had a traveling job. So I was gone almost every week anyways from my family. I would be home on the weekends. So I would come home on the weekends, and then I would be out there. And that's where a lot of dangerous things happen. I mean, one time he bit me. He got mad because my work phone, my phone was also had my work information, and every so often randomly it would make me change the passcode. And one day it made me change the passcode, and like I remember we were at a Waffle House, and I went to the bathroom, and I came back, and he realized that my phone, I guess he was trying to get on my phone, and the passcode had changed, and he was so upset that we went out, we had to leave. And then like I was driving, and he did something like with his hand, and I remember pushing my arm to him, like, get off of me, and he grabbed my forearm and he bit me like bad, like I had a huge bruise on my arm. But see, with him, a lot of his physical abuse to me would be when he was really, really drunk. And then he wouldn't remember it the next day. Or he says he wouldn't.
So what were you feeling at this time? Like, take me back to when he was physically abusive for the first time. Were you surprised that he was acting this way towards you? And just what were you feeling?
I remember being so confused because when he was not drunk, he actually was a pretty decent guy. Like, he was fun to be around. He was pretty intelligent about things. He had that grandiose things like I know you talk about with your ex. He believed that he was going to go to Hollywood and be a movie star like Tom Cruise. And he basically would say that like I was being like he would almost like he's like trying to like prepare me, like, I hope you're ready for this. Are you going to like this? Because girls are going to be all over me and everybody's going to want me and I'm going to be a huge star. Do you think you can handle that?
So cringe.
I know. I hate saying it, but this is what he would do.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would, I think it was hard. Like one time we went to the movies and we were going to go and we took my kids. And then like he went to the bathroom and like he was gone the entire time, and then I found him outside afterwards and he was like tripping and trashed, like with chips and salsa all over his shirt, like, and so I was constantly having to like take care of him. I don't quite know how I was feeling because I was just consumed with this person that was clearly sick, and I didn't quite know how to take care of him. I don't know why I felt like I needed to take care of him. I wish I had ran, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So he, that relationship was kind of back and forth. It was only about 2 years, but we broke up and got back together a few times. One night, probably the second scariest night of my life, was the night when he broke my nose. So we were out, and he always wanted to. He always was trying to proposition me to have a threesome, and like go to strip clubs and pick up a stripper. Yeah. And so it was not anything I wanted to do. It was never something we talked about being okay with doing, but he wore me down so much that I was like, okay, let's go to the strip club. Like, it's fine. I had been to strip clubs before when I was younger. It was not a big deal. And so we went, and something happened, and I don't quite remember what the argument was. You know, we both were drinking, but he was really close to me, and he bit me on the nose. I don't know what's up with him and biting.
I know. I was just about to say, it feels like that's his favorite form of abuse.
He also spit on me a lot, and he always blamed his spitting on his crazy ex-girlfriend, who, you know, worked with the police and trumped up charges and yada yada yada, which is relevant later. But biting. And I didn't realize it yet, but I was bleeding. And then they told us to leave because they saw. And so we left. We got an Uber home. And I don't even remember what was all happening on the way home. We didn't fight in the car. And then when we got in the house, we were in my bedroom. And then he pinned me down on the ground. I remember I had a big bruise on my chest. And then I got up, and that's when he hit me on the head like 3 times with like open face, but smacked me on the head. And the last one, he broke my nose, and it was just bleeding. And my poor mom was at the door. She was videotaping. She was so scared, but she was scared of him because he was really violent when he was drunk. And finally on that last hit, that's when she came in. And I don't fault her at all because it was scary. Like, and he had told her many times, stay out of it. Don't get in the middle of things with us. Yeah. And I still didn't call the cops that night either. But so I ended up just getting first aid stuff to take care of myself, and it was bad. Both my eyes were black, and during that whole weekend, like, I just sat around with sunglasses, and I just remember being so brokenhearted because, like, my kids would come to my door and I would just answer the door with my glasses on. I told them Mommy hit my head on the bathtub or something like that, like, just all the lies. And so he just felt bad, but it would always, like, not necessarily in this situation, but other days, it would wake up in the morning and be like, oh, what am I sorry for today? Like, it would always kind of turn into a joke, right, of what he did. He blacked out the night before. And then, so I was going to leave to go on a work trip that following Monday. And, like, you look at my face, it's bad. Like, the fact that I literally was going to go to a work trip looking the way I looked lets me know how absolutely disconnected I was from reality. And so actually, he ended up dropping me off at the emergency room because I was in a lot of pain. And on the way to the emergency room, he coached me as to the story that I was going to tell of what happened. So we came up with this story that we were at the club, and in the parking lot, that some girl punched me. And I'm like, this is my story. Don't ask how I have the bite marks on my nose,
Yeah.
But anyways, so we went, and he dropped me off, and I went in there, and I don't know what it is. Like, I was alone, and the cop came because they had to. I remember the cop came to the room I was in, and wanted to hear my story because clearly I had been assaulted, and I gave them this story. And of course, this is probably why a lot of law enforcements are like, you guys lie to us. Like, I don't know what you're mad at us, but you're lying to us too at the same time. So I was all alone. So what's my excuse there? I don't know. I could have told, but I didn't. I was protecting him. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, but he had coached you, and I think, was he ever crying like your ex was? Did he ever do those whole theatrics, or was it always just this, like, joke of, well, what did I do?
No, he did. He would get really emotional when he was drunk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, and then I got an Uber drive to take me home from the emergency room. I tried to break up with him after that. It was a lot of back and forth. But as far as, like, the physical, everything physical just really, really, really rooted and stemmed with the alcohol.
Yeah.
And even now, I'm not anti-alcohol. I might have a drink 2 or 3 times a year, but I don't drink anymore. And I know that it's just because my experience, my relationship with him, even just the smell of it just grosses me out because it just totally ruined it for me.
Yeah, it reminds you of that.
Exactly.
Do you think there was a part of you that was kind of feeling like all of this was just the alcohol, so it was a bit easier to try to move past? Like, deep down, this guy is a good guy.
Yeah,
I think
that's really a valid point, and I think definitely because it was so different when he was sober to not. And mind you, my children's father was not in the picture. He never contacts them. He's not, And I so desperately wanted a dad for my children. Like, I really, really, really wanted a family. And it felt like the man part was missing. And when he was sober, it seemed like a good fit, you know?
Yeah.
But he had a lot of demons. His mother passed, I think, when he was 5, and he's like the youngest of like 12 kids, and he said he was in the army, and he had gotten some head injury of some sort. He was taking some sort of medication, but he wouldn't take the medication because he can't take that when he's drinking, and so he wanted to drink more than he wanted to take his medication. So it was always a struggle for me to get him to take his medication, and it was just it was just a bunch of hard
Yeah,
stuff.
he wasn't getting the help that he needed to get. And I have heard that head injuries, that can change your personality, right? I have heard.
I'm surely it does. In fact, I mean, I don't have any diagnosed traumatic brain injury for myself, but I will say that he hit me a lot in the head. He would hit me, he would punch me a lot of the times would be in the back of my head. And I would always have these knots on my head. And I feel like sometimes I feel like some of the long lasting effects that I have is from so many times just being punched in the head.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that sounds silly to say, but
I don't think that sounds silly at all, because you always hear about NFL players, how they get that one condition from having so many concussions. If somebody's hitting you in the back of the head repeatedly,
yeah.
I mean, that doesn't sound silly to me, that there would be long-lasting effects.
That was kind of his go-to place, and I feel like it might be because it didn't really leave bruises. Well, I had knots on my head, but nobody could see it.
Which they're very selective about what they do.
Yeah,
what can be
very,
seen
very
and what
selective.
cannot be seen.
For sure. Yeah. So the relationship was very volatile, up and down. And towards the end of it is when we decided it was a great idea to get married. But he kind of, to be honest, he really rushed me into that one. I was flying home, so it's a crazy thing. I was flying home from a work trip, and he somehow charmed his way past TSA and was on his knee at the edge of the gate when I was walking off the plane. And I remember being so confused because I was like, what? I'm like, did you buy a ticket? Like, how did you get past here? It just completely blindsided me. And so he knew his money was coming, like he got a confirmation on it or something. So I think that's why he was like wanting to do this, which I don't even know. Looking back on it, it's just silly. I don't know what his driving force was for doing this, for getting married. But
had he been married before?
Yeah, actually he was. He had been married to another lady very briefly before he met me. He had just gotten a divorce. Another beautiful lady, and she had a young daughter as well, and a businesswoman. So he was staying with her too. I mean, I saw a funny reel. So I was like, nobody falls in love faster than a narcissist who needs a place to live, So
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe the rush of it might have been like, well, he has this failed marriage with this other woman and he kind of wants to just jump into something else.
Possibly.
So you're at the airport.
Yeah, we're at the airport and he's like, oh, marry me, blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember what he said. It was a whirlwind. And I was like, yeah, so he got me this ring, which is fine. It was not my dream ring by any means, but he didn't have the money yet, so it's fine. I'm okay with that. And he so we moved forward with the plan. That was in April, and we ended up getting married June 19th. No, June 21st. Excuse me, June 21st. And so we're talking like 2.5 months later.
How was the wedding planning? Or did you guys go to the courthouse, or did you actually have a wedding?
The wedding was at Disney. So it was like, very shortly after. I'm going to tell you what, if you want to get married at Disney, if you have the money to throw at it, they can make it happen.
Very quickly.
Yeah. So, I mean, he got his big check, which was a 6-figure check. So it did come through. And
wow. So he was telling the truth.
He was telling the truth. I mean, if that's where it really came from, yeah. But I'm going to tell you, like, man, this guy blew through money faster than I've ever seen anybody do it. I mean, he wanted Gucci shoes. We had to go to Carmel. We went shopping, and he was very generous. Like, he bought me new clothes. He bought my mom new clothes for the wedding. He paid for everything for the wedding and whatnot. And I think it was my decision to do. I really, thought Disney would be wonderful, and I've always loved Disney. And
Same.
Yeah, it just was like kind of a dream type thing, and he could make it happen. And we didn't go over the top. We didn't have the carriage ride or fireworks, but I think it was probably about $30,000 for the whole.
Where did you get married at Disney? Because I know you can get married at the different parks.
Yeah, at the wedding pavilion at Grand Floridian.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so we got the planning going, and he had promised me that. So in the meantime, okay, back up just a little bit before the engagement, I had really insisted that he stop drinking. Mm-hmm. So he had stopped drinking. So people are going to be like, Alissa, you're crazy. But I'm going to tell you, he did stop drinking for about 3 months. And so I really thought, this is great. It's turning up. There is light, He was going to AA meetings, and we were going through the steps and stuff like that. So I did.
Which would give you a lot of hope.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was in your situation and I thought, this guy is genuinely a good guy and he actually does stop drinking and he's going to AA, it does seem like he could have turned a corner.
It did give me a lot of hope, definitely. And anybody who's been in a similar situation, that we just look for the breadcrumbs. We look for any little things that can give us hope. So we were doing that. And the backstory is, I'm 38 years old at the time. I've got 2 kids. They're 7 and 10 now. And I want to have a family. Like, I've never been married. I felt like it's my turn, I've never been a bride. And that may sound selfish, but, I was like, this is the time where it's going to happen. And he's not drinking, so let's do it. But it was much faster than I wanted it to be. I didn't want it to be that fast. So his family was in Florida, and we had like 20 people allowed to visit, and I had like 4 people from my side, and all the rest were on his. And so there was just this huge rush. And I know that that's also very similar to other people's stories of, like, they want it on their timeline, and if it doesn't make you comfortable, like I would say, I don't want to do it that fast, and he would basically say, well, then you don't want to marry me then, or you don't love me because you're not going to do it now. Why are you trying to wait? And there was a person from my past who he would be overly obsessed with, that during one of our breakup times, I had reconnected with that person. So that was really relevant because leading up to the wedding, there was an incident, and I'll share that in a minute, but he was so obsessed with this guy from my past. Like, he would talk about him all the time and throw it in my face all the time. And so he would basically, when I said, I don't want to get married, well, what do you want to be with, so-and-so, and, you don't love me type thing. So I just gave in. It wears you down. And so we did that, and there was all the 6 weeks before was just crazy planning time. And about 3 or 4 weeks before, he went with me on a work trip, and it just came to a head with this ex. He just would always ask me about it, and I was basically like, look, you've already asked me to marry you, like we're supposed to be starting over, and this is supposed to be a new fresh time for us, and why are you keeping to do this? And he was drinking, and so I would just encourage.
So he started drinking again?
Yes. So
okay.
He started drinking because he was using the wedding as a excuse. Like,
I was wondering if that was going to come into play.
It's going to be a celebration. and he was using that, and so he would find ways to loophole his way out, and like starting with like the wedding shower, party. Oh, we'll have to have a glass of champagne or something like that. And then of course by then it's already getting planned. Plans are made. Dresses are bought. That kind of stuff. Anyway, so he's with me at the hotel on my work trip, and it got very bad. He kept me up all night long and proceeded to get very, very drunk, and he just questioned me for hours about a sexual encounter with my ex when we were not together. And I would just, I think that this is probably similar to what other guys do, where they do the whole, well, if you just tell me, then I'll be okay with it, but you need to tell me and we'll move on from there type thing. Yeah. And it really got me thinking about like the physical or the psychological abuse of interrogation.
Yes. And like how you get broken down.
Yes. Like we're talking about 8 or 9 hours of this experience. Yeah. And just interrogating. And finally you just are like, okay, if I tell him, then he'll stop. And I can go to sleep, Mm-hmm. And so, I told him, unfortunately, the details that I never wanted to share with him. And then I think, well, he had me on my knees. He made me stand at his feet on my knees and like grovel at his feet, basically. And then he was like drinking a beer bottle, and then he would like whack me on my head with a bottle, like while I was on the ground, telling me I was a whore and telling me all like every bad thing about me, spitting on me, of course, and just kept me up all night long. So then I had to go into work at 8:00 that next morning, and the type of work I did was, a really, really professional position, and I would travel to different companies and basically audit them all day long. And so here I am having to run a really professional audit and be looked at as like a leader, and my eyes are red and puffy and stuff. In the meantime, earlier that evening, he had somehow gotten my ring. Either I took it off or whatever, and he threw my ring into a bush somewhere. So then I'll tell you, like, that's relevant because we went through that whole horrible traumatic night, and then he takes me to work, and basically it's like, this has been an exorcism and we're going to be better now because of it. And then so while I was at work, he went to a jewelry store and got me a new ring. Mm-hmm. And so
now it's a fresh start. We purged all the bad. Yeah.
You'll never hear about it again. I'm never going to mention his name again. And I'm like, oh, thank you, God. Like, that was hard, but if we're there, then I'm glad we're there now. It's behind us. And it wasn't behind us. So, but so then he got me a new ring, but then that's kind of like the cycle, right? It's like they treat you horrible, and then they give you gifts, and they're sorry, and then, mm-hmm. That's what it went. The week before the wedding, I was on another work trip, and he just disappeared for like 15 hours. His phone went off, couldn't find him, whatever. He swears to me that he got drunk somewhere and passed out somewhere. I don't know what it was. Anyways, so fast forward to it's Disney. It's time to go to Disney. I've got kids. They're so excited. This is their mom's wedding. It's just a joy. It should be a joyous occasion, right? Yeah. And so when we get there, we're checking in. We even stayed at the Grand Floridian. I mean, it was like club room. I'm telling you, he paid for my dad and his wife to stay at another hotel, and then like his niece and her husband who were in the wedding, like he paid for like 5 or 6 other couples to stay at different their rooms. Like he was just paying for everybody.
Yeah.
He insisted that I have Jimmy Choo shoes because he's like, oh, everybody's going to love it. Like, he just wanted it to impress everybody. And so really just felt like I was just playing a role to facilitate him to impress these people that I never even met before in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, we went to, while we were there, the like 3 days before the wedding would have been like our 2-year anniversary. Had we been like 2 years of our first date, right? Not 2 years continuously together.
Yeah.
But we still celebrated it as if. And that's where at dinner, again, he got drunk. And then he told me that week before he cheated on me, that he had slept with somebody else, some stripper, I think.
Oh my gosh.
When he went missing, and I didn't know where he was. And that his reasoning was to pay me back for having slept with my ex 6 months before when we were broken up. But, you know, in his mind, we weren't really broken up. I owed him to, like, be honest, true to him. And after what I had told him, what really had happened, then basically I deserved this. And then he was going to do this before the wedding.
I can't even imagine. How did it feel hearing that information? I mean, it's right the day before the wedding, you're trying to figure out just details of the wedding, and then he drops this bomb on you.
That was 3 days before the wedding, and I had sprained my ankle that night. I remember I had like ice pack on my foot, and I could barely walk around, and it was just... He kept like walking away from me in the grounds of the hotel, and I was like trying to hobble behind him. And I mean, it was just, I can only imagine what it looked like from the outside, people seeing us. I was bawling my eyes out. I was so just gutted because I felt like, why are we still talking about this? And then you're punishing me. Like, he felt like he needed to punish me. Yeah. Like it was his role to punish me. And so, yeah, he, and I did not tell, I don't think I told my mom. But then the next day, like, I went off on him, and then he fought me off and pushed me off or something, and then I ended up like having this huge bruise on my arm, on my hands, and I was just covered in bruises. And it just blows. It's so funny because it's not funny, but again, it's that disassociated, like, it was just, my life was just covered in bruises all the time. And so the fact that I got married with bruises all over my arm and my hands, like, it didn't even occur to me. I didn't even think about putting makeup on it. I look back on the wedding pictures and I'm like, oh my God, I can only imagine what people thought looking at me.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But yes, we went through the wedding. We went through with it. And he was trashed. He was trashed at the after wedding. We went to that really nice hotel or restaurant at the top of Contemporary, the California Grill, and I've got pictures because our like wedding night stay was at Contemporary, and I remember I saw pictures, and he's just like, he can barely hold his eyes open, and he was just trashed. We got to the room, and he just passed out on the bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, then the next day he's calling me a whore and a bitch and talking about the ex person's name, and I'm like, oh my God, if I have to hear this name, I'm like, I hated my life, and I was like, I have made the most horrible decision ever, you know. I cannot believe I went through with it. And then we went on a Disney cruise afterwards. And talk about being on a cruise with somebody who's abusing you is like horrible because you're stuck. My mom had to fly home with my children afterwards, and like something happened, and their flight was delayed. They got stranded in LA, and he wouldn't let me call them. like I couldn't take a phone call from my mom about my kids. And that's another reel that's gotten a lot of controversy I have, because people are like, how do you mean you won't let somebody, he wouldn't allow you? I'd be calling my kids no matter what. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's easy to say what you would and wouldn't do, but it was a cruise, so it was challenging to be in a situation where I could, break away and get on there. But I felt horrible. At some point I had to talk a little bit to them, because then our dog got something in his paw and he had to have surgery. There was all these things that was going on, and I needed to be there for my family. And I think just the big message is like, I would love people not to get thinking like, oh, well, why didn't you stand up for yourself and take care of your business? I just think that I would love for people to see that, like, that this coercive control, it is so real, because it's not like he said, you cannot call your family. It was more of I knew what the consequences would be if I did. And I think that's the thing, is like, when you start making decisions for fear of how the other person's going to react and respond, that's kind of like textbook coercive control,
Yeah, and when you're on a cruise with somebody, it's scary. I mean, I know when I was with my ex, I felt like I had to trust him with my life, trust him that he's not going to throw me overboard or something horrible isn't going to happen. It's not necessarily like you're wanting to get in a giant fight while you're on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean.
Exactly.
It's a scary situation.
It is very scary. Definitely. I remember you saying that you just got like a redemption cruise to take that back. So I love that. Yeah, it's very scary. And so, like I said, immediately after the wedding, I knew it was a mistake, but this person, I had tried to leave him, break up with him probably 4 times in the 2 years before. And every time he wears you down or work his way back or something. So leaving him was very, very hard. And I wasn't quite sure how to do it. What got it for me was only just about a month and a half later. I was away on a work trip again. Yes, I fly almost every week for work. So, that's just the way my life is. And this guy had stood up and said, I'm going to be your husband and be the stepfather to your 2 children. So I wanted to believe that I could trust them with him. But turns out, I don't quite remember how I found out. I think my daughter told me or texted me, but he drove drunk with them in the car. And nobody was hurt. There was no accident, but he was, my daughter had told me, and she did not feel safe with him. And that is all I needed to hear. And I was like, you're never going to be with my children ever again. And then I had to start the process of, getting him out, which was very, very, very hard. Once they've moved in with you, and there's laws and there's rules where they won't just kick them out, right? So I ended up actually selling that house, and it's something I regret to this day, because I'm not financially in a position to buy another house yet. But we moved across country again, and that's kind of like another recurring story for me is I've done a lot of running. I've done a lot of running away from men that I have, for reasons that I've allowed, or subconsciously or unconsciously allowed to infiltrate my life. And then I've had to run away. And, part of my big story is my comeback in the last 5 years that really that's empowering. And I think is actually, the earlier stuff that I just explained is more maybe salacious and controversial, but my story in the last 5 years is what I'm most proud of, and that's the fact that I did end up getting away from him and getting a divorce. We moved away. I did 2 years of really good therapy. Good therapy in the sense that I think I realized that I didn't heal properly in between the first and the second one. Yeah. And so I really dove into it after the second one and did 2 years of intense therapy. And that was also during COVID time, right? So nobody was really dating at that time anyway. So it was kind of like, it made sense for me to stay single. And then another big piece of my story is that my whole life is, and I kind of mentioned at the very beginning, my first boyfriend told me I was too fat for him. So I've always had body issues and felt very not pretty. And both of those exes always threw bad, horrible things out to say about me, how I felt and whatnot, and horrible things about my body, and use that against me because they knew that was my insecurity. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of hit rock bottom in the sense that I had a Christmas where I didn't take any pictures with my kids. And I really was like, okay, my kids only have me. I'm the only parent they have. And now the Christmas of 2021, there will be no pictures of me with them. And I was like, that's bad. I don't ever want to do that again. So the day after Christmas 2021 is when I started. I got on my Peloton and I started riding. And then I decided to start running, which I never ran before in my life, other than metaphorically running away from men. And so I started running because I travel for work. And so I'm like, well, not going to always have my Peloton to ride the bike. Mm-hmm. And also, naively, I thought that running was a cheap sport because I'm a single mom and I didn't have a lot of money. But you're a runner,
I thought that too.
You know it's not cheap.
Running is so expensive, guys, because you have to get the Garmin or some sort of running watch, and then the shoes are like $200. And if you run a lot, you have to get shoes quite often.
300 miles, and then I got and then the race entries, and it's just at first, yes, it's very cheap. You can just get out there and start running, but once I started getting addicted to it, it was costly, but it's okay. It was worth it. And so, I started running, and that was in, let's say January, February of 2022. And then in November of 2022, I had lost 50 pounds, and I went and ran the Disney Wine and Dine half marathon. And so, and it was just huge for me because it was like where that tragic moment was for me before, and, the wedding. And so it was really just like undoing it, making new memories and just like really being about me. And then like 2 years later, just this last December, I did my full capstone moment, and I actually returned to Memphis and ran a full marathon.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so it was like, that was life-changing for me because it was like, I had ran away from, the last time I had been there was when I had run away and being like escorted away under police escort. And then like to go back there in power and strength and have my children watch me cross the line. And I was running in streets that I had been fearful in before. I ran past the police station where I had bailed him out of jail before, where I had gone to court with him before. And it was like, just a huge moment of power of like, I'm running back here and I'm strong and I'm facing my fear.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I'm most proud of. Just my like kind of perseverance and showing my children that you can face your fears, and this life that I'm living is not what I thought I would be. I was, a cheerleader in high school with never any, real violence growing up. pretty decent boyfriend in high school. I thought I'd be a sorority girl. I thought I'd get married right out of college and have kids and, that. But it went all over for me. But, it's okay. And after I ran the marathon is when I felt empowered enough to really tell my story. Which is silly because there's part of me that feels like maybe somebody might say, well, it's not really a happy ending for you yet because I don't have a husband and I don't have like romantically a happy ending. And I don't even want that. I don't even know when or if I'm ever going to want to date somebody again because it's too scary, especially while my children are still at home, because I feel like I let a monster into our life once, and I can't make that risk. I can't risk that again. It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
There's good guys out there. I'm not man-hating, but there's good guys, but I can't take that risk that I'm going to find a bad one.
Yeah, it can be scary. And I think it is a happy
personally,
ending.
just by myself, I think it's a happy ending right now. So still going.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that if anybody ever wants a self-confidence boost or you just need a win, running really is something that changed my life. When I was with my ex, I was going through the hardest time of my life. But I mean, you can ask my family. I had told them, I said that 2019 was one of the best years of my life. And that was the most abusive year. But it's because I was personally happy because I was running and I was feeling confident in myself. So I felt like I was living in these two extremes. I was happy without him, but I was really suffering at home. So to go back, it was fun because when I went to Disney and ran the full marathon, and it was a full circle moment because I was there with my now husband and who took up running for me. He was like never a runner. And I was like, please run with me. So we ended up going, and the full marathon ran right past the Yak and Yeti restaurant, which is where I was like verbally abused by my ex. Oh, we stopped and we took a picture.
Good.
Yeah, we stopped and we took a picture there. And I love that you went back to Memphis and you got that moment of reclaiming those streets that I'm sure held so much pain at one point. And that you literally fled from. I think not many people could probably relate to that level of having to flee from danger and just leave everything behind. So to go back and be able to just know that you did this, you trained for this, and you've put in work and been to therapy, and now you're back. That is, to me, a very, very happy ending.
Thank you so much. And I think that, like, I have a lot that I'm running too, but I would be lying if there weren't some of the things going on in my head as far as, like, revenge of, like, I know that those things that they said about me, that they would never think that I could be doing this right now. Like when I was running, like he would say, I'm nothing, I'm a piece of shit, or I'm so fat and I'm so lazy. And I'm like, who's lazy now? I'm out here running for 6 hours, I'm not fast.
I don't think that's bad, It's empowering to be like, what you said about me, that's not true.
Not true. Exactly. It's not true. Yeah. So it was so exciting. Running has changed my life, definitely. And I would be those people making the jokes like, oh, I'm only going to run if something's chasing me or something, and you don't get it until you're in it, and honestly,
so
I don't really love running, but I love how I feel afterwards, so.
Absolutely.
But that's really cool.
How has it felt sharing online? After just going through all of this in silence for so many years, I mean, to the point where you even dropped off the face of the planet for 4 years, how does it feel finally sharing your story on social media?
It feels really good. That's really where I felt like, I do believe that God protected me and saw me through all those dark times. And so I just really feel like it's kind of my mission now to share this story, and of faith and strength, and I draw it all from God and my relationship inside me. I could not have done it on my own. There was people along the way. There was doors that were open for me that I do believe was of a higher power. But for me to share is really giving me, like, I feel like there's more of a reason than just for me that I survived. Not one, but two. So it's like, like I think it's like, actors that have like 2-time Emmy Awards or 2-time Oscar award, the more they have, the more credible they are, right? So I'm 2-time domestic violence survivor. But yeah, so it was more for something greater. And so that's why I want to share my story. So sometimes I get a little bit, I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes I get a little bit when I share my story and people are like, I'm so proud of you. You did such a great job. You're such a great mom. And I love that. Like I really do. I'm so thankful that people recognize that. But I'm truly not doing it to get praise. I really want to let other women know that they're not alone, because I just know how isolated I always felt. And it wasn't until when I read Why Does He Do That? I read that after my first relationship. The therapist that told me he thought he would kill me, he said, you need to read this book. And I read that book. And that was part of my eye-opening experience, that realizing that, like, I'm not unique. I'm not special. This is a freaking script. Like this happens a lot. And so that really opened my eyes to that, because there's the whole life of domestic violence is so shrouded in shame and silence and fear, that and covering up. I mean, a whole part of my story also, my mission is I really want to get the word out there in like corporate businesses of learning how to see warning signs and how to provide resources, because I think that, so like, the stereotype is like, you think that woman's going to come shuffling in her bathrobe with black eyes. I got 4 promotions while I was going through all these horrific stories. I kept it a really good secret, and nobody knew. You know what I mean? And so I think that's part of the real problem when you do want to start sharing. People have a hard time believing you, because you've been telling a story this whole time, and so you've gotten really good at telling that story. And so when you're ready to tell, I think it's hard for people to believe, and that can feel really deceiving, or really like a despair moment for the victim, because it's like, nobody's believing me, so I'm going to be quiet. Why share? And so that's something I tell, like, I say, I believe you. I'm on your side. Like, you don't have to explain anything. If you tell me you went through this, I believe you, because I think that's what we need to hear.
Yeah, and I think when I left, I was so on social media. Like, I know you weren't really on social media when you were in these relationships, but I was, and I was trying to be a Disney blogger. We would go to Disney often, and I was posting so many happy photos. Yeah. Like, look at us. We went to the pirate room at, where was it? Caribbean Beach Resort, and I was posting pictures from there. But what people didn't know is that he almost broke my finger that night, and I ran throughout the Caribbean beach, and he was chasing me past the hammocks, but I was living this very, like, my husband's the best, we're having so much fun at the parks. And it was hard for the church people who were obsessed with him to wrap their minds around it, because they were like, what do you mean? You've been singing his praises for 4 years. You've been saying he's the best husband in the world, and that he's doing these scavenger hunts for you. And I'm like, yes, because I was selling this thing, because my family thought that he treated me perfectly, and it's because it's like this house of cards, that you just are trying to not make it fall. You're trying to just put on the best face that you possibly can to protect their image. So it's hard, because people it's jarring for them if they've been told something that they might not believe you right away. So I love what you're doing as far as just making sure that women know that you believe them when they tell you.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that that's really important. And I think that like letting women know that sometimes the community or the people that you'll get strength from might be people that you don't even know, that are like women like you and I who really just have a heart for supporting, because if they turn to their people in their lives, they might not be there for them, and then that can be really disappointing and actually have a really bad effect, like it happened to me. Because when you're in that moment and the person doesn't believe you, or the person's not there for you, or the person won't pick you up when you need a place to go, like you're thinking, why me? This is so sad for me. But I promise you, when you're out of the fog and you can look back on it, you'll realize that like that person probably had their own stuff going on that they were trying to work through and deal with, or that person didn't want to invite, violence into their home. I mean, they might have their reasons, and doesn't mean they don't love you or care about you, but they're just not in a place where they're ready and they have like the skills to be able to speak to somebody who needs that. And so I would say don't be afraid to reach out to, people like Jubilee or myself, because we unfortunately we're in that special club that nobody really wants to be in, but we're in it, and we understand. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where can people find you?
I never called the domestic hotline, but I think you did. And so that's another thing, is like I encourage women that speak to me to do that too.
Yeah, definitely. So where can people find you? Because I know you're sharing all the time resources.
I'm trying to do my best. I have a podcast myself, which is called Make It Uncomfortable, and so I just the driving force behind that is just the whole idea that we're silent, we're ashamed, and my mission is to really just make a place where people. It might be uncomfortable to talk about this stuff, right? It's not fun. But it has to be said. There's things that need to get said, and that will raise awareness and also just grow a community of people that if you understand my story and you feel my story, then you're not one less person. I'm one more person that has been through it too.
Yeah.
So that's the whole premise of Make It Uncomfortable. I've got about 7 or 8 episodes right now. I just started it a few months ago, so it's available on Spotify and Apple.
Yes, I will link it in the show notes for this as well.
And my Instagram is the same thing, Make It Uncomfortable. So,
which I love the name. I love it.
Thank you.
When you were saying earlier, like, is this too much? I think. No, people, they need to hear these circumstances because it's real life. And I think that a lot of the time when you just say I went through domestic violence, like we were both saying, there were times in both of our stories where we didn't even know if we were in an abusive relationship. I think that details are important. And I think that not shying away from some of these more difficult topics is really important. And I'm glad to finally have this podcast, and I'm glad you have your podcast, because I have just felt so stifled by TikTok specifically, because they censor so much. So I'm so happy to have a place where it's not censored, where you can say what actually happened and it's not going to get suppressed. Because that does happen.
I'm not big on TikTok. I have TikTok, but I only have like 100 followers on TikTok. I haven't had really very much traction there, but I haven't put very much energy into it either. So I focus more on Instagram, and my hope is I've recently applied to be a speaker at the National Domestic Violence Convention that's in October. So we'll see. I'm waiting to find out if I get picked.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I can't wait to tell my story, but I want to go to it, definitely. And yeah, I just hope to find a way to find like speaking conferences and things like that I want to tell my story at. I would love to, like I said, do some corporate trainings. I think that there's a space and a need for something like that, because it's like I said, it doesn't have a face, it doesn't have a race, it doesn't have an age. It's affecting everybody. And for people to think, oh, that's a home life problem, that's behind the closed doors. It's not. It seeps into every area of your life. So I love what we're doing, and I think we just need to stay strong. I get a few hecklers here and there, and people, and I'm just like, thank you for proving our point of why, people are scared to tell their story, because especially maybe another woman, like, you're not believing me, are you kidding me? Like, so that's upsetting, but it's probably 99% is good and positive, so I'm not going to back down.
Absolutely.
Hey, we've been through worse, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And
well,
next
thank
time
you so
come
much.
To Disney World, come give me a call. Like, we got to go.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I want to go back. And their Epic Universe. I love Universal too, so I'm excited.
Okay. We don't have Universal passes, but I can meet you at Disney. So
yes,
we got to go.
We love Disney. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Your
you
strength
for your
is just incredible, and I'm just so thankful for you and the work that you do online and sharing your story, and I know that it's going to help so many people.
Thank you so much. I'm starting a small group here next week. I've had limited spots, and so we're moving forward with that. But if it's successful, then I might be opening up more time. So just to give women a smaller platform who might want to tell their story but not quite on Instagram. And I'm excited about how that's going to go. So I'll look forward to sharing that with anybody who follows me. You'll see how that goes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
Jubilee. Take care.
All right. Thank you all for listening to Alissa's powerful story. It's not always easy to listen to, and it is certainly not easy to tell. If anything in this episode resonated with you, or you are walking through something similar, please know that you are not alone. Help is available. You can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-7233 or text START to 88788. And as always, resources are listed in the show notes. Thank you all for being here and for being a part of this healing space. I'll see you guys next week for another episode of Healedish.